Good evening, councillors and members of the public gallery. At 6 p.m, and I declare this ordinary council meeting open. I welcome all those present. I'd like to start by saying the City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of the region, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay our respects to their continuing connection to the land, waters and community, and acknowledge and pay respects to their elders past, present and their descendants. Item 2 is the disclaimer. The City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying upon any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for an approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice is either an approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of the application has been issued by the City. Please note the meeting's being live streamed. The recording will also be archived and made available on the Council website after the meeting. If you choose to participate in the meeting during public question time or public statement time, it is assumed your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to the Council and other members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Conditions of entry: no electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used, and a person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will be required to immediately leave the premises. Item 3, attendance and apologies. Electronic attendance has been approved by myself in accordance with Regulation 14C of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, and approval has been given to Councillor Catalano, Councillor Congadin, Councillor Prodovnik. The following staff will also be attending electronically. Mr. Oh, okay. Thank you, Councillor Jones. I had you as an apology. I'll add you to the list of approved people. Following staff, including Mr. Vanderlyn and Mr. Russell, will also be attending electronically for as long as they can. Councillor Kiley will be applying for a leave of absence. I'm also aware other councillors. I've just had a message about an hour or so ago, and I didn't see it till just then, from Councillor Richardson, who wants to attend electronically. I can't determine the nature of her reason, so I'll have to put that to Council shortly, or I'll do it now. Are you prepared to move that way, Councillor Parry? Do I have a second that Councillor Richardson can attend electronically? Thank you. Councillor Johnson, is there anyone against? Being no one against, we'll try and get that information to Councillor Richardson so she can hook up. Thank you. Thank you, Telia. So I just want to state that, as most of you are aware, there have been a few councillors, a significant number of key staff that have tested positive for COVID this week. This has significantly impacted the City operations this week and resourcing that is available for tonight's meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have access to our governance advice tonight, and planning advice will be done remotely as far as we can. Some staff attending remotely are not able to Zoom for the entire meeting due to their health condition. Therefore, there'll be later proposed in the agenda we adjust the order of business to address these items where planning staff are required, and hopefully we can get that done early on in the evening, councillors. Council have been provided the opportunity to ask questions on the agenda, and we respectfully ask for Council's patience due to these exceptional circumstances and also that of the public, and we apologise for any inconvenience. Also, the CEO is absent due to COVID reasons and tenders his apologies. Item 4, declarations of financial and proximity interest or interests affecting impartiality. Any councillors or Mr Acting CEO, do we have any?
Mr Mayor, I have one received from Councillor Johnson. It's regarding item 4.1, amendment to 193 to the local planning scheme number 17. It's an impartiality interest. by virtue of the fact that he lives under the flight pass.
Thank you. And was that another one just handed in?
It is, Mr Mayor. This one is from Councillor Howlett. It relates to item 4.1 as well, aircraft noise. The nature of interest, it's impartiality. So yes, it's an impartiality interest by virtue of the same reason I live under the proposed flight path. Also, with relation to item 3.4, provision of home support services, it's an impartiality interest. I am a deputy member of the Swan Community Care Services Association.
Thank you, and I'll ask any councillors via Zoom if they've got any impartiality or other interest to declare.
David.
Thank you, Councillor Congdon.
No, I haven't.
Thank you. Councillor Prodovnik.
No, I haven't.
Councillor Jones. Didn't get a response back from Councillor Jones, but moving on.
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Congdon, yes.
The Community Care Services Program has got a conflict of interest there, but I'll send the forms in after.
Thank you. If we can just make note of that. Thank you, Danica. Impartiality. Moving on to item 5, public question times. Question and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended either for the purpose of summarising, that is, removing preambles or statements, or for editing. Item 5.1, answers to questions which were taken on notice, and questions which were taken on notice at the Ordinary Council meeting on the 6th of April this year from Mr Mark Church are included in the agenda. Item 5.2, questions relating to reports contained in the agenda, and 5.21, questions of which due notice being given. There's a question from Mr C. Stradian, 5, and they have been answered in the run sheet, councillors. 5.2.2, questions without due notice. Are there any questions and answers which were received without due notice prior to the meeting? Is there anyone in the public gallery wishes to ask a question on any item on the agenda? Being no, we'll move to item 5.3 and 5.3.1, questions of which due notice has been given. And there's a number of questions, or one with a lot of dot points, from Mrs Anne Winchester from the Upper Swan District Ratepayers and Residents Association. All those questions have been answered. Is Mrs Winchester in the gallery? No, they're in the run sheet then for her information. And item 5.3.2, questions without due notice. Is there any questions or without due notice being received prior to the meeting? So, does any member of the gallery wish to ask a question of a general notice of an item not on the agenda? Being no, we'll go to public statement time, which is item 6. The registration for public statement time at council meetings required by 3 p.m. Tuesday the 3rd of May. I have 2 people registered to make a public statement, and item 6.1, the first person to make a 2-minute deputation is Mrs Christine Hughes in regard to the draft conservation policy for Guildford. Thank you, Mrs Hughes. Once you start speaking, you'll have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I've just concluded 9 hours of intensive participation in the stakeholders' workshops to contribute to the development of the draft conservation policy for Guildford, following its listing by the state government as the whole of town heritage town. The Swan Guildford Historical Society has also participated in 9 hours of that, and we've done about another 12 hours on top of that. I just want to say a couple of things. It won't come to you, I don't think, for another month or 2. But when it does, I want to say to you that it will only ever be as good as the application of it and your diligence as councillors in being faithful to it and being rigorous in its application. We've had the opportunity to see lots of failures in terms of the conservation policy that currently exists, which have weakened the integrity of the town. So I want all of you to commit to that if I can make you commit to anything. But the other thing I want to do is congratulate two staff members, Hannah Thornton and Gail O'Leary. Those two planners have worked extraordinarily hard and demonstrated a commitment that I think goes well beyond what you might have expected of them. Gail has produced all of the supporting stuff for the workshops, got the whole thing to go ahead, setting out tables, making sure there's a cup of tea. Hannah Thornton has demonstrated an incredibly intimate and informed knowledge of that policy. And I want to just place on public record our thanks for the extraordinary contribution those two women have made. Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance and your deputation, and I'm sure that your congratulations will be passed on to those staff members through their executive manager. Anything to add, Mr.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, Councillor Jones has just advised she does have a impartiality interest, which we should just announce in regards to the item on community care services contract.
Thank you. For those people who didn't hear, Councillor Jones has advised us she also has an impartiality interest on the community care services, and that'll be noted, and we'll get her to fill out the required form. The next person making a public statement is at item 6.2 is Mr John Gangel in relation to the change of use of showrooms to gym and tavern, Great Eastern Highway, Lloyd Street, Midland. Thank you, Mr Gangel, and you'll have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I'd like to come and present tonight on a very exciting item on the agenda, and that's a potential change of use to what used to be the former Spotlight store in Midland. This is very exciting for Midland, bringing in some $3 million worth of investment to bring a varsity to Midland as well as a health complex. I think this will be exciting. Currently the site is run down. It has been abandoned and damaged over the period of time. Not only will this rejuvenate this area, it will also bring a great number of employment positions to Midland, as well as creating a vibrant and colourful, outstanding place to go for families, to watch sport on the big screen, to have a nice meal, and to have a drink with the meal as well. Those that haven't been to a varsity, I would urge everybody to attend a varsity. It is a wonderful complex, and it is family driven by large. There is very little noise that is omitted from a varsity restaurant. I've certainly acquainted myself in the past week with the varsity in Morley, and I can attest it's a fantastic location, will be great in Midland. And just very quickly to finish, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Bayswater has also sworn by its virtues for an area, and she's invited everybody down to have a burger so they can see the benefit of coming to Midland. And just to sweeten the deal, I'm happy to join her. So I can see what everybody's thinking. A burger with Jono, that's worth voting for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Gangel, for your attendance and your deputation. Councillors, that takes on to the next item, item 7, petitions. And I ask any member of the gallery or any councillor wish to present a petition. No? Then we'll go on to item 8, deputations. As you'll be aware, deputations were dealt at last week's agenda forum held the 27th of April. Item 9, announcements by myself as the presiding member. As I just reiterate that a number of councillors are not here tonight due to COVID and a number of key staff. So some of the questions that you may have may not be answered this evening. Item 10, members' questions, and 10.1, answers to questions which were taken on notice. There were nil. Item 10.2, questions of which due notice has been given. Councillor Johnson, you had 6 questions and the answers are in the run sheet. Does anything arise out of them?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Item 10.3, questions of which due notice has not been given. Are there any other questions from councillors? Being no further questions, item 11, leave of absence. Councillor Kiley has requested leave of absence from the 4th of May this year to the 1st of August this year inclusive. I need a motion, councillors. Moved Councillor Parry, seconded Councillor Zanino. Yes. Question, Councillor Bowman.
Mr Mayor, I'm aware that councillors, if they take a leave of absence, are still entitled to their sitting fees. Has Councillor Keeley requested or indicated anything about not taking his sitting fees for that 3-month period because it is quite an excessive amount of time.
Not that I'm aware of, Councillor Bowman. Thank you. So I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put it to the council. Those in favour? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for and 1 against. The motion is passed.
Online, can we just check?
Oh, sorry, I haven't got anyone on screen. Is anyone against that is online? You're against Councillor Catalano? So that makes it, we had 8 and 3, 4, so that's 11 and 2 against. So Councillor Catalano and Councillor Bowman against, all the others in favour. Thank you, the motion is passed, which takes us to the next item, is item 12, confirmation of the minutes, and 12.1, confirmation to the ordinary minute held on council of the 6th of April. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder, councillors. Move Councillor Bowman, seconded Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare that carry. And item 12.2, it's been brought to the staff's attention that the ordinary meeting of council held on the 15th of December 2001 for the item 5.4 Midlands Men's Shed, there was a replacement resolution included in the ordinary minutes which was incorrect, and the correct resolution is there before you on page 9. So I'll also need a mover and a seconder to correct those minutes. Move Councillor Parry, seconded Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare that carried, which takes us on to item 13, any business left over from the previous meeting, and 13.6, the asset management strategy on page 16. I need a mover, councillors. Move Councillor Parry. I'll have a seconder and Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare that carried, which takes us to part B of the agenda and adoption of those recommendations contained in items not withdrawn. So for the benefit of members observing the meeting, the council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means that agenda items where council supports the officer recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items and the officer recommendation therefore is the decision of council. The following reports from Part B and Part C of the agenda have been withdrawn for debate and in accordance with the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will be dealt with by council individually. Those items in Part B, items 3.3, homelessness in the City of Swan, item 4.1, consideration of submissions to the aircraft noise special control mapping area, item 4.2, proposed amendment number 1 to the Henley Brook local structure plan, generally add additional public primary school and to amend POS 10 on multiple properties in Henley Brook. Item 4.3, the responsible authority report, change of use of showroom to gym and tavern at Great Eastern Highway and corner of Lloyd Street, Midland. Item 4.5, unauthorised patio transportable structure and home business in Huntsman Terrace, Jane Brook. Item 4.6, a single house and animal establishment being a dog kennel, Old West Road, Bullsbrook. Item 4.7, removal of lawn and concrete, the lawn area for vehicle parking in Cambourne Road, Malaga. Item 4.8, proposed outbuilding within the asset protection zone, variation of the provision of the local development plan in Stark Turn, Allenbrook. Item 5.1, construction of a workshop at the Midlands Men's Shed. Item 6.3, budget adjustments from May 2022. Item 6.6, proposed 22-23 differential rates and specified area rates. Item 7.6, annual meeting of electors motions 23, which regards water fountains in Bennett Springs. Item C, these and Part C, confidential items. Item C 3.2, property acquisition on the Crescent, and item C.3, workplace culture review. The following items have not been withdrawn for individual consideration and will be dealt with via the en bloc voting method. Therefore, the recommendation of the decision of council will be held as per the officer's recommendation. And those items are Part B, 2.1 Policy Review, Stakeholder and Community Engagement. Item 2.2 Policy Review, Licensing and Leasing of Community Facilities. Item 3.1 Development of e-petition page on the City of Swan website. Item 3.2 Enforcement of ACROD parking on private land. Item 3.4 Provision of home support services for the frail, aged and young people with disabilities. Item 4.4 Proposal to use a portion of the existing shed for coffee roasting addressed in Nangow Road in Lexia. Item 5.9 Statutory planning decisions under delegated authority from the 18th of March this year to the 13th of April this year. Item 6.1 List of accounts paid in March 2022. 6.2 Financial Management Report for the period ended 31st of March 2022. Item 6.4 Change in the basis of valuation. Item 6.5 Establishment of 2 new reserves, Public Open Space Reserve Swanview and Public Open Space Reserve in Middle Swan. Item 7.1 Annual Meeting of Electors Motion, Urban Development and Application of Policies. Item 7.2 Annual Meeting of Electors Motion 11, Marketing Office to promote Indigenous and Non-Indigenous heritage. Item 7.3 Annual Meeting of Electors Motion 16, Midland Central Park. Item 7.4 Annual Meeting of Electors Motion 17, Devon Street, Woodbridge. Item 7.5 Annual Meeting of Electors Motion 22, Rainbow Park, Bennett Springs. Item C 3.1 Property Divestment, Victoria Road, West Swan. So I need a motion to adopt those items in Part B and C as per the en bloc. Moved Councillor Parry, seconded Councillor Johnson. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, then I declare all those en bloc items carried as per the officer's recommendation. I now have a proposed motion, I believe, to change the order of business. Is that you, Councillor Parry, or Councillor Congdon?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, Councillor, I've got a proposed motion to change the order of business. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
I propose change in order of business to bring forward the items due to limited availability of planning staff. For those at home, I think the Mayor's already indicated that whole bunch of we've got COVID and our capacity to stay totally engaged in this for 4 hours might be problematic. So I'm asking that we bring forward 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, C3.2 and C3.3.
Thank you. Seconded Councillor Bowman. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare that motion carried. We'll now move to item 4.1, Councillor.
Mayor, I wish to raise my procedural motion in regards to reducing debate times to 3 minutes.
Thank you. If you can read your motion, Councillor
Just need it on the screen,
Parry.
if you don't mind. Thank you. Thank you, I'll take that one. Number one, in accordance with Part 11 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019, suspend Clause 6.6, duration of speeches for the duration of the Ordinary Council meeting of 4th of May 2022, including any adjourned and reconvened meeting. And 2, note that where a provision of local law has been suspended, the presiding member is to decide questions relating to the conduct of the meeting. The reasons of the motion is that to allow the presiding member the discretion for the duration of the Ordinary Council meeting of 4th May 2022 to determine the length of speeches during debate. The Council needs to take reasonable steps to ensure that it completes its business on the May 22 agenda. 3, suspension of this clause of the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will allow the presiding member the discretion to limit the length of speeches during debate as he considers appropriate.
Thank you. And before I call for a seconder, I advise that I intend, if this motion is successful, to limit all debate to movers, seconders and other people, and the right to reply to 3-minute time limit. Seconded Councillor Bowman. Is there anyone against? You wish to debate it, Councillor Johnson? Sorry, been advised it's a procedural motion. There's no debate, so I'll put it.
Is that correct? I thought.
That's the.
I think you can debate a procedural motion.
Makes it difficult. But we're just checking on that because our governance officer is not in attendance tonight. I'll just get it right before we put it to the vote. Thank you.
In that case, let's get on with it.
Okay, I'll ask again. Is there anyone against? You wish to debate it? Okay, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour of limiting all debate to 3 minutes, please raise your hand. I've got 4 online and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 all up, with 1 against being Councillor Johnson. Thank you. The motion is carried. That makes the next order of business item 4.1. I'll just have to find it in my run sheet. Thank you, councillors. It's on page 104 of your agenda, and I have a proposed motion by Councillor Catalano. Thank you, Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thank you. My motion is that the council resolve to 1. Note to the submissions received on proposed amendment number 193 to local payment scheme number 17. 2. Not support amendment number 193 to local payment scheme number 17 for final approval. 3. The CEO to advise the WA or Western Australian Planning Committee, and the Honourable Minister for Planning that Council does not support final approval of the amendment and its gazettal. 4. Advise those who have lodged a submission of Council's decision accordingly. 5. Record the reason for changing the officer's recommendation is that too many City of Swan residents and ratepayers are now adversely affected by noise pollution at all hours of the day. And I could put night and night.
Thank you. So the point 5 will now read all hours of the day and night. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Is there anyone against? There is. Do you wish to debate it? No. Councillor Johnson? No. Then I'm going to put it to the vote. Those councillors in favour, please raise your hand. Of Councillor Knight, Councillor Howlett. If I could have the on-screen, I saw Councillor Catalano's hand, but I can't see anyone else. The motion is lost with Councillor Catalano, Councillor Howlett and Councillor Knight in favour. Everyone else is against. I need a motion, councillors. Councillor Bowman?
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare it carried unanimously. Well, it's not that I didn't look, Councillor. Okay. For technical reasons, I did look. I couldn't see anything on the screen, but I certainly didn't hear any.
No, I'm sorry. I have to object because I do want to object to this proposal, and my hand was up.
Thank you. I couldn't see you on the screen, but you certainly didn't indicate via voice. But I take that we've got some technical issues. Do you wish to debate it, Councillor Catalano?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Then, Councillor Bowman, you have 3 minutes if you could start your debate. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the officer's report's pretty self-explanatory. It makes sense. There's not much of a change, there's not much of an impact, and I've got nothing further to say.
Thank you. As the seconder, Councillor McCulloch. Thank you.
No, officer's report is very comprehensive after reading through it in detail, so nothing further.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano, you wish to speak against it? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you for that. After World War II, the Perth Airport was situated on the outskirts of Perth, and why was it located there? Because only a small number of people would be affected by aircraft noise and pollution. Residential development in the City of Swan, as we know, has expanded over the decades since then, and now the airport is right in the middle of all of our residential suburbs, causing noise and pollution nuisance to a large number of residents and ratepayers. I don't believe the City of Swan should continue to support the nuisance, the noise nuisance to its ratepayers and residents. The City needs to make it clear to the federal and state governments that the airport and its services need to be relocated to a location where fewer residents and ratepayers will be affected. Things change, Perth changes, the City of Swan changes, and so must the services. We all have to change with the time and with the changes that are going on around us. This amendment, in my view, was cobbled together in 2020 to try to deal with the effects of aircraft noise and its adverse impacts on all of the new suburbs in Caversham and Dayton that were previously farmland but are now high density, and many people are affected by it. And they've told me they're affected by it. And the submissions actually just prove that people don't even believe that by this changing of corridors that people are going to be less affected for those who looks as if there's going to be less noise affecting them. So
you have 1 minute left, thank you.
For the 2020 changes mean that more people in Vivash and Middle Swan who've never been affected by aircraft noise before can be expected to be affected. So if that's the situation now, what's it going to be like in 10 years' time when aircraft traffic increases, when the population continues to become more high density in our suburbs? What's going to happen then? It's going to be more people that are going to be affected. So it's time that we make these changes, and the time is now. We cannot continue to have aircraft noise affecting our residents and ratepayers day and night. I believe that the planes are not allowed to land in Sydney and Melbourne over the nighttime hours, and that's because it disturbs people's sleep. So it should be the same here. We should have this, and we should let the state government and federal government know that it's time to relocate this airport.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. That's your 3 minutes. Speaker for the motion. Any other speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just speak to this, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's a fact that nobody would, in their right mind, would cite this airport in its current location. It's right in the middle of many of a major residential metropolitan area. However, it is where it is. Any attempt to change it would mean a substantial change to the airport master plan, and the airport master plan is, I think, is unstoppable. It would be great. In my view, the airport ought to be moved to a remote location and connected to Perth by a high-speed rail line, but I can't see that happening. The major issue, the other issue that's been raised here is the noise, and the noise in particular that causes most of the problems for most residents is the fly-in, fly-out workforce. So those are the planes that we hear at 5:30 every morning. They certainly wake us up. My understanding, there's no possibility of changing that. So the only way to get rid of that is to move the airport somewhere else, and I can't see that happening. In terms of our need to actually change the local planning scheme 17, the majority of the changes indicate that the aircraft noise exposure envelope is being reduced, not expanded. I see it is expanding over Vivash, but everywhere else it's reducing. So it's reducing. So this is just making a change to the local planning scheme to reflect the reality of where the aircraft noise is. I've got some experience of this myself, as I live pretty much in one of these, I think, yellow zones, so I'm well aware of it. But I think we have to change we have to make the amendment to the local planning scheme to reflect the reality of the situation. And I think we ought to be finding other ways to suggest to the airport that maybe it needs to rethink its business model. But that's a big uphill task. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against the motion? And Councillor Bowman, you have 3 minutes for your right of reply. Thank you.
Just quickly, councillors, the airport's not moving. There was a paper a long time ago when I was in the country local government. I think they suggested Cundon would have to go to there. So it's not moving. The noise is going to be there. We can't make the planes fly differently. Technology is increasing. As Councillor Johnson said, the area is actually reducing, so there actually is a positive here.
Thank you. I'll now put it, and if I can get the councillors at home on screen, please. Those for the officer's recommendation. I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor Johnson, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Parry, and I can't see anyone on the screen, so I have to do it by voice. There we go. Councillor Congdon, Councillor Jones and Councillor Brodovnik in favour. The motion is passed. Those against were Councillor Catalano, Councillor Howlett and Councillor Knight. Thank you very much. That takes us to the next item, which is item 4.2. It's the proposed amendment number 1 to the Henley Brook Local Structure Plan to generally add an additional public primary school and amend public open space 10 within multiple properties. It's on page 155. Councillor Congdon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the proposed motion, Councillor Last 2. 1. Adopt the officer's recommendation subject to the following amendments. Insert part 2 bracket A bracket 3 as follows. Notwithstanding 1, above recommend the West Australian Planning Commission that it decreases the area of public open space number 7 by deleting the approximately 2,200 square metres of POS designated over the northwest corner of 122 Brooklyn Drive. Number 2, because the reason for changing the officer's recommendation is to acknowledge the submission of the owners of 122 Brooklands Drive that the area of public open space designated across their property is too close to their existing house and will have unreasonable adverse impact on the amenity of the property. And there is a third point, advise the Department of Education that it should closely consider the need for a safe pedestrian crossing of Park Street as part of any future development application for the school at this location.
Thank you. Your second at Councillor Parry. Is there anyone... Sorry, Councillor Knight.
Just a question. Councillor Bowman and myself went up to the property. Just on the wording, the northwest corner, we were under the impression it was a northeast corner, or maybe just a northern.
Actually, it is the northeast.
It is northeast, yeah. I did ask the planning.
You're correct, it is the northeast. Thank you, Councillor.
So you wish to amend that, Councillor?
Yes, please.
To the northeast corner. You're happy with that, Councillor Parry? Thank you for that additional information, Councillor Knight. I have a motion before us. Councillors, I'll ask, is there anyone against? You're against Councillor Johnson. You wish to debate?
Question, actually.
Question.
I've not visited the site, and I cannot work out from the information in front of me here where exactly this public open space is and where 122 Brooklands Drive is. Could a member of staff assist? It might be impossible because they're probably all off sick. Maybe Councillor Bowman can help.
Did you hear the question, Mr. Russell? Are you online?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the question.
It makes it difficult.
The most efficacious way from resolving Councillor Johnson's query is being done by Councillor Bowman.
Yep.
That
I understand now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask again, is there anyone against the recommendation of the motion of Councillor Congdon? I can't see anyone at home, but if you could use your voice to object if you have any objections. Being no objections, I declare it carried unanimously. That takes us on to item 4.3. It's the Responsible Authority Report, change of use of showroom to gym and tavern, Great Eastern Highway and Lot 11 Lloyd Street, Midland. It's on page 244 of your agenda, and Councillor Podovnik, you're first. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So the Council resolves to 1, endorse the officer's recommendation subject to A, the inclusion of the following additional condition. Prior to occupation of the tavern or gym, the applicant/owner is to install within the subject lot to the satisfaction of the City of Swan 2 trees to replace the 2 existing trees removed for the creation of the AFOD parking bay. And B, the modification of condition 14C to read details of the future ongoing management of the bins and the bin storage areas, including cleaning, rotation and moving bins to and from the bin collection areas. The management plan shall also include details on securing the area at all times from public access. This may include, but not be limited to, the use of security gates, security patrols and security cameras to ensure minimal disturbance of adjoining landowners during evening and nighttime hours. And 2, instruct the CEO to write to Main Roads WA to express concerns for safety at the intersection of Lowton Road and Great Eastern Highway. 2, request traffic safety measures to be put in following Main Roads WA study into the configuration of Great Eastern Highway. 3, continue to advocate for Main Roads WA to address the issue as part of their ongoing traffic study and for staff to update council accordingly. The reason for changing the officer's recommendation: 1, Main Roads WA is currently in the process of commissioning a study into the ultimate configuration of Great Eastern Highway. 2, safety issues at the intersection of Lowton Road and Great Eastern Highway identified by residents are pre-existing, predate this development application, and the City can advocate for this issue to be addressed as part of that traffic study. 3, replacing trees that need to be removed helps retain Midlands tree canopy. 4, ensuring the ongoing security and management of bin loading areas will limit the impact on adjoining landowners.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? There is. You wish to debate it? Yes. You'll have 3 minutes, Councillor Prodovnik, to open your debate. Thank you.
Okay, tonight I urge Council to support investment in Midland, particularly in this part of Midland where a vacant building has become a homeless shelter for 2 men. I'm asking Council to support a change of use so this commercial building can house a gym and a varsity sports bar and join 9 other businesses in what has now become a popular food hub in Midland. This development is not being built next to a street in a quiet neighbourhood that's about to have its peace shattered by a noisy pub opening. What we're talking about here is an area that has a lot of antisocial elements to it. What was once a spotlight building has now become a homeless shelter for 2 men. Windows are broken, trash is in the laneway next to it, and unsurprisingly, the 3 neighbours I spoke to, 1 who lives directly next door and 2 who live directly opposite Spotlight, are desperate for something to go in there that will provide lighting, more security, stop the graffiti and vandalism. They strongly support the building being tenanted again. But what have other people said? The City of Swan's public comment period drew 39 submissions, and there were 26 objections. Almost half objected because they wanted more options for families with kids, so their comment was far broader than what was being proposed. And one of the main objections raised, parking was one. Currently most of the traffic on the site is drive-through. If people park, it's not for long and it's to pop in and grab takeaway. I do agree with one of the submissions from an urban planning company that said, I quote, "It's likely that customers of the proposed uses would need to seek alternative locations and that the Midland Gate Shopping Centre parking area will be attractive." Now that isn't part of the DA, but common sense dictates since Varsity will be next to Lloyd Street, people will park at Midland Gate across the road, particularly at night as it's well lit, and they will just walk over. Noise was another concern, but these residents live next to Great Eastern Highway, Lloyd Street, a fast food hub, and the hustle and bustle of Midland Gate Shopping Centre. The City has also imposed conditions to mitigate sound, including a noise management plan that needs to be submitted and an acoustic assessment. Some were worried a tavern would create more antisocial behaviour. Those same people admitted antisocial behaviour has long been a running issue in the area already.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
So how long have I got?
1 minute.
Okay, supporting this change of use will improve the area. There will be more security on site, more businesses have CCTV cameras, having a building tenanted helps keep crime down, having an empty building in an unlit corner just encourages vandalism, whereas having tenants in a building helps keep crime down. At the end of the day, JDAP will make the final decision, not us. That's not our role tonight, but we can make a recommendation to approve. Tonight, our motion recommends approval and encourages activation on a site that is becoming a food hub destination in Midland. It also encourages the City of Swan to be proactive in monitoring an intersection that has been identified as a safety issue by residents. Please support this motion.
Thank you. Seconder, thank you, Councillor McCulloch. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Prodovnik has covered many aspects in great detail. But councillors, let's remember again that this land use for the gym and tavern are capable of approval in this highway service zone. And the use class of a tavern is an A use in that service zone, and it is capable of approval. There doesn't appear to be any empirical evidence that a tavern will result in an increase in antisocial behaviour. The 24-hour gym will also result in increased passive and active surveillance, and that is something very important for Midland and something that we need more of. City staff are satisfied that the traffic generated as a result of this development can be accommodated within the surrounding roads network. Staff also acknowledge the development will result in an on-site parking shortfall, but notwithstanding this, they are also satisfied that the on-site parking can be managed subject to the occupancy limits in both the gym and the tavern. They're satisfied that noise levels generated sit and comply within the EPR. And councillors, I think really we're going to continue to bring business to Midland. We're going to encourage families in a family fit area and further activation to Midland, where we know we are looking for more of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. Speaker against the motion. Councillor Bowman first. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'd like to propose an amendment, and that amendment is reword condition 17. So it would say no signage for the tavern tenancy is to be permitted abutting Great Eastern Highway.
We can just go to that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear that clearly. Can you say that slowly? It's a bit difficult, the sound.
So, Mr Mayor, it's condition 17, which currently reads the proposed 1.5 metre high by 0.5 metre wide entry totem sign for the tavern tenancy is to be set back a minimum distance of 3 metre from the existing crossover abutting Great Eastern Highway, and I want to move an amendment to change that to read no signage for the tavern tenancy is to be permitted abutting Great Eastern Highway.
Have you got a page number on the agenda for that condition? Thank you.
I have a question.
Your question, Councillor? Yeah, I'm just trying to find it in the agenda myself. Thank you. So I've got an amendment by Councillor Bowman. First of all, I'll ask if that's acceptable to the mover and the seconder.
I have a question. I'm just trying to understand why you would remove what is in effect signage that alerts people to the fact there's a business there. Am I misunderstanding something?
Well, I think that's a debating item. I'll call for a seconder to the amendment. Councillor Howlett. Seeing it's not...
Sorry, just another question. I don't understand the proposed amendment.
Well,
I'm just seeking more clarification on it. I don't know whether I agree with it or not, because I'm trying to understand the motive. It appears that we're trying to get rid of signage.
I don't know if Mr Russell's online and has heard the amendment. Mr Russell?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm here, but I'm afraid I can't shed any illumination to the purpose or intent of Councillor Bowman's amendment.
That's right. I'm going to allow the debate to continue on the amendment. I have a mover and a seconder.
And again, I'm sorry, but this is my motion, and I don't know whether I want to support this amendment because I actually don't understand what it is.
Well, you'll only find out, Councillor Prodovnik, during the debate once we start having it. Councillor Johnson, you have a question?
Yeah, question, Mr Mayor. The question is, can those councillors and staff who are online, can they actually see that screen? Because this may be Councillor Prodovnik's problem.
I'm not sure whether they can see the screen or not.
So in that case, Mr Mayor, can I ask that the amendment be read out again? I believe that's a request that can be made within our meeting procedures law.
Yes, I'll just allow, because we're operating under difficult circumstances, Councillor Bowman's amendment, if you can turn to page 249 of your agenda, councillors, is to delete condition 17. So there'll be no signage for the tavern on Great Eastern Highway. Or reword condition 17. So I I'm going to now start the debate, councillors, and Councillor Bowman, you have 3 minutes for your amendment.
Just quickly, councillors, I do have some concerns with this proposal. I have concerns with Great Eastern Highway. I have concerns with adding extra signage on Great Eastern Highway. This building is not on Great Eastern Highway. Why should it have signage on Great Eastern Highway? It can put as much signage as it wants on its building. But again, trying to restrict the impacts to Great Eastern Highway, hence the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Howard is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm very much in support of Councillor Prodovnik's motion, but in seconding Councillor Bowman's motion, when I was down there last Friday night, I did a little vox pop through that takeout section of Taco Bell, and the crossover that abuts Great Eastern Highway, where it's noted on point 17 to put the totem sign, is it's just a little bit. It's a very hectic intersection, and I don't think it would benefit from adding any more visual pollution there. Signage is so important for a business, I understand that, and I think it might be smarter for the business to locate that totem signage perhaps on the Lloyd Street side of the business, which is where we really want to be, I would think, be wanting to direct traffic into the parking and al fresco area. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the amendment.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you've got 3 minutes to speak against the amendment. Thank you, Councillor Prodovnik.
Oh, look, I don't need 3 minutes. I just think it's ridiculous to even suggest that we allow a business to potentially set up and disallow signage. I mean, we've got Hungry Jack's with signage, we've got KFC with signage, we've got 9 businesses on site with signage, and for some reason we're denying this budding business, proposing to invest in the area, the ability to have signage. It just makes no sense to me. I just do not support this.
Thank you. Speaker for the amendment. Any other speakers for or against the amendment? Councillor Henderson.
Just briefly, councillors, I'm against the amendment. The fact of the matter is that when you're driving along the road looking for a business, it's very useful to know where the entrance is, and I think we should allow them the opportunity, the customers, the public, the opportunity to be able to find the place. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers, councillors, for or against the amendment? Being no further... yes, Councillor Congredon.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I'm against the amendment. This is probably referred to as the Vegas Strip, and there are more signs down this length of road than I've seen anywhere else other than perhaps Sydney. When you consider that a lot of these pylon signs or designated signs have a visual number or a direction pointer, it's imperative that the businesses that are pushed back off the main road are given the identity to know where people are going to go. Otherwise, what will happen is traffic driving around and around and around and around the block trying to find the destination that they want. I can't see any disbenefit whatsoever by saying not take the sign away. Leave the sign there. It's a benefit to business. And this council is always talking about business struggling, people trying to accommodate passengers, couples. And what's being proposed now by Councillor Bowman is let's not do that. So, perhaps if you knock this back or put a huge balloon over the top of it, they'll be able to see it from the airport. Ridiculous.
Thank you, Councillor Congredon. Any other speakers for or against the amendment? Being no other speakers, you have a right of reply of up to 3 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Some councillors may think this is ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous. I'm not saying no to signage. I'm just saying no on Great Eastern Highway. We talk about the entrances to this actual building. There's 4 entrances. Are we going to allow one of these signs on every entrance? Again, I hear the argument that there's already lots of signs down there, like Las Vegas Strip or something like that, if I heard. Does that give it the right to actually say, well, we didn't restrict it before, so let's not restrict it now? Again, we look at each one of these, and councillors, I think that this property that's backing away from Great Eastern can still get their signage on their building, and we don't need to add more signage to Great Eastern.
Thank you. I'm now putting the vote for the amendment to change condition 17 not to allow signage on Great Eastern Highway. Those councillors in favour of the amendment? I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor Howlett, myself. The amendment is lost. 3, which I'll repeat, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Bowman, myself. For the amendment, the rest are against. So the amendment's lost. We're back to the substantive motion. Councillors. Councillor Bowman.
So, Mr Mayor, I'm against the motion. Are you happy for me to continue my debate?
If you'd like to enter the debate now, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Councillors, the impact of the surrounding properties must be considered and needs to be addressed. The alfresco should be on the south side of the building and the bin storage to the west side of the building. These 2 changes alone would significantly reduce a number of concerns. However, this is the application we've got in front of us. The car parking is my major concern. Staff in the report acknowledge that the development will result in an on-site parking shortfall. The report also advises of 34 stacking car bays. Councillors, I wasn't sure what a stacking car parking bay was, so I asked. And this refers to the cars in the drive-through of HJ's, Taco Bell, from when you place your order and then you wait to get the order. So that's considered a parking area. I was advised that they actually include the car parking numbers. However, wanting to broaden my knowledge, I investigated, and I must admit I can't see how these can be included, as I did not find anywhere in the scheme or the parking policy where the use of fast food drive-through lanes can be considered parking spaces for the parking calculations. Councillors, the report also indicates that this is not a typical tavern, with no dedicated standing area in the form of a beer garden, so further reductions have been allowed on the size. Councillors, if I read this right, this application does include an alfresco. It also includes an upstairs mezzanine that will have arcade games and pool tables. These areas should not be excluded from the parking requirements, or are we saying that there will be no one using these particular areas? I also note that the report allows for a 15% reduction across all uses. There is no information provided on why, and as such, this can be described best as an arbitrary figure. This application will likely have a detrimental impact on the vehicle movements through the drive-through of the current fast food establishments. The flow-on impact is it will be reasonably expect vehicles stopping in an unsafe manner on Great Eastern, but also on Lloyd Street.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
I acknowledge the late submission from Sean from, I think it's Stewart Urban Planning, and he raised pretty well the same issues.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion. Any other speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, most councillors will know that I'm in favour of pubs and taverns. I've helped to stop 2 from being demolished, but, councillors, this is a change from a spotlight where people used to go to buy curtains and dress material into a gym and a tavern. The issue is not the gym, it's the tavern, and in particular the alfresco area of the tavern. The tavern will adjoin number 20 Hyde Street, which is currently residential, and 3 units at 35 Lowton Street, immediately to the north. All 3 units are residential. You can see in the submissions on page 78 2 elderly tenants and 1 expectant couple. This information about 35 Lowton Street you can find at page 81 in the letter from Brookwood Real Estate Agents, who are the manager. There's also a letter from the owner, Rochelle Harrison, at page 78, explaining the impact it's going to have. The tavern will include an alfresco area on the western side of the tavern. This outdoor alfresco drinking area is to the west of the building and is just 40 metres from the residential home at 20 Hyde Street, just 30 metres from Unit 2 at number 35 Lowton Avenue, and just 15 metres from Unit 3 at number 35 Lowton Avenue. Remember, they're all residential. Now, if you turn to page 253 of the agenda and you look at the bottom box, what you'll see there is that it says in the first paragraph halfway down, noise levels are expected to exceed the noise regulations at 20 Hyde Street, Midland during nighttime hours. So no, the report does not say there's no problem with noise. The report says there is a problem with noise. At page 259, it says, it's noted that the nearest noise-sensitive premises which will receive the highest noise level is 20 Hyde Street, Midland, which has planning approval for a childcare premises.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
I've got about that much, a little bit more, Mr Mayor, so I'd
keep
appreciate
going.
it if you let me do it. It will exceed the assigned levels under the noise regulations after 10 p.m, even with the childcare premises there. Well, that's 40 metres away, so you would expect the situation at Unit 3, 35 Lowton Avenue, which is only 15 metres away, to be worse. Unit 3 is also right next to the proposed commingled recycling, where the bottles will be dumped after the tavern closes at midnight. An elderly couple live there. At page 248, the recommendation describes the noise management plan at section 10. It describes a long list of problems that the residents will have to face. You can find that page 248. Noise from the aircon on the plant, general noise from the tavern, end-of-night noise from bottle collection and disposal, waste disposal noise, music noise from the tavern and gym, noise from tenants vacating the premises. Sorry, I don't mean tenants. Noise from patrons vacating the premises. And it says on page 259, the assessment has been undertaken on the assumption that music noise will be background in nature with no live or amplified music. That's no live or amplified music. Well, councillors, what kind of music is there that is not live or amplified?
Thank you, Councillor John. How long have you got left?
That much.
Okay, can continue, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No sound amplifiers, no live music. What kind of music is this? Councillors, the only defence that these 4 residential homes we've had, the people living in them right now, elderly people and families will have, is the Liquor Control Act 1988, section 117, and that is a very onerous thing to actually bring into operation. A better way to control the inevitable noise is to recognise that a tavern next to residential homes is bad planning and should not be approved, and that's why I'm asking Council to reject this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Speaker for the motion. I'll ask again, are any other speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thanks. I'm against the motion.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, I've read the submissions from the people in Lowton Avenue, and I believe they're justly concerned about the impact that this is going to have on their quiet enjoyment of their property, and also on with people parking on their verges, digging up their verges. And I just don't think it's good enough to say that the shortfall in parking can be made up by people crossing the road at Lloyd Street, because I don't know if you've ever tried to cross the road at Lloyd Street to get from Midland Gate across to that spotlight site, but I tell you what, you take your life into your own hands if you do that. So that's not going to be a likely possibility for families either. There's not enough parking, and it's going to end up on people's verges. But what I'm really concerned about is written in the submission by Stewart Urban Planning, and basically, in fact, that what happened to the city's own Midland Activity Centre structure plan? Because we are supposed to, we've put out a structure plan so that this kind of activity ends up in the CBD, in the Midland CBD. Currently, we don't have, we've hardly any activation in the Midland CBD, and we're going to likely have less activation in the CBD if we continue approving these kind of tavern, restaurant, whatevers, on the outskirts of the Midland Activity Centre structure plan area. So, once again, we're cutting across our very own plans and policies. We need to be consistent, and I'm afraid we're not being consistent if we approve this. And it's great, we've got investment in the area, but you know what? Investment needs to be directed into the right area, into the CBD. That's why we have the Midland Activity.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
So I think it's time to be consistent in our approach, because actually I think one of the major failings with Midland is it's completely ad hoc. there's no consistency, and doesn't it show? So let's be bold and just say to these people, too much negative impact on residential, on residences nearby. It's a residential area. How about looking to locate in the CBD, which is the area we want to activate, which is the area we want to turn into our inner city, high density, totally lively precinct? What about doing that? Because that's where we've been spending all our money over the last few years to try and create that kind of scene happening. And I think their tavern and their whatever gym and all the other aspects of it sounds to me like being absolutely ideal for the Midland CBD, which currently has nothing going on at all.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. That's your time. Speaker for the motion, or any other speakers for or against? Councillor Howlett.
Thank you. I'll just be brief. This is an already very busy hub. There's people coming and going to access the gyms and the food outlets and options that are available there. If Varsity Tavern come to Midland, that's a great sign of confidence that Midland really needs, and it will attract further investment. And whilst I agree with Councillor Catalano's point about sharing that business more into the centralised section of Midland, into the CBD, we need to start somewhere, and we need to allow business to be attractive and grow. So I'd support this motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Then your right to reply, Councillor Podovnik. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right, I'll just try to keep this brief. Look, again, I've spoken to residents on Logan Avenue, not every resident, but the ones that are definitely close by, and also on Hyde Street. And, they accept it's a fast food hub, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them would prefer that it's activated rather than left derelict. I just want to say that people do cross Lloyd Street all the time. You don't take your life in your hands because there's a controlled walkway, and pedestrians cross, and it's heavily used by the locals. So I'm not quite sure where that comment's come from. There's also a shared parking agreement with 20 Hyde Street, which will be a childcare centre. 20 Hyde Street is going to be part of the solution, probably not ideal, but again, it's an offering. At the end of the day, JDAP will consider parking issues, noise and traffic issues, and everything that's been included in the report to Council. They are the decision-making body in this process. We are simply making a recommendation tonight. They will seek input from Main Roads and the Department of Planning. If these agencies are not happy with the submissions the applicant has made, they're going to continue those discussions. So again, we're not the final decision-making body, but the decision we make tonight will send a strong message to investors that we welcome their investment, we support their efforts, and we wish them every success. Now, we are talking about a big pre-existing commercial site being activated again with 2 new tenants. Please support this recommendation to JDAP for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Podovnik. I'm now going to put the motion. Those in favour? I have Councillor Howlett, myself, Councillor Jones, Councillor Podovnik, Councillor Congdon, Councillor Parry, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch. The motion is passed. Those against were Councillor Bowman, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Catalano, being 3. That takes us, thank you, councillors, to the next item. It's item 4.5, unauthorised patio transportable structure and home business, Huntsman Terrace, Jane Brook. It's on page 351 of your agenda. Councillor Podovnik.
That the Council resolved to defer consideration of the development application for a transportable structure patio and home business at lot 222, number 39 Huntsman Terrace, Jane Brook, until the ordinary meeting of Council on 6th of July 2022. 2. Record the reason for the motion to enable Council to consider further issues raised by the neighbour.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Is there anyone against the deferral motion? You are, Councillor Johnson. You wish to debate it?
Fine, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. As someone against, they wish to debate it, Councillor Podovnik. So you've got 3 minutes to start your debate. Thank you.
Look, I've had a chat to the impacted neighbours, and the information I'm particularly seeking is a report that hasn't been included in the report to council is a survey that is done that recommended some changes be made. I haven't seen that report. I'm also asking questions about the original approval that was granted in 2004. I've got some questions about that. So really it's just an opportunity to get a bit more information on the table so we've got the whole picture. That's all this deferral's about.
Thank you. As the seconder, Councillor Howlett.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Johnson.
Yes, just for the simple reason, Mr Mayor, all the information that we need is in the report. It's not a tavern, it's just a hairdresser.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Bowman.
Mr Mayor, I support the deferral. I have questions about the impact to the retaining wall with the moisture, with the runoff. They haven't been provided, so as such support the deferral.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against the deferral motion? Being no other speakers, Councillor Brodovnik, you've got 3 minutes if you require it. I'm happy to do that. Those in favour of the motion of Councillor Brodovnik to defer the motion till the 6th of July, please raise your hand. I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Brodovnik, Councillor Congdon, Councillor Jones, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson and Councillor McCulloch. The only one against was Councillor Johnson. Thank you, councillors. That takes us to the next item. It's item 4.6, Single House and Animal Establishment Dog Kennels, Lot 1, Old West Road, Bullsbrook. Councillor Bowman, it's on page 367 of the agenda. Councillors.
Mr Mayor, the first part is as per the officer's recommendation, which is to approve the residence, and then my change is with the animal establishment, and has refused to approve the proposed animal establishment dog kennel lot number 1, number 102, Old West Road, Bullsbrook, for the following reasons. The proposed development is considered to be contrary to the objectives of the general rural zoning applicable to the land, in that the potential for noise from dogs on the premises is likely to have an inverse impact on the rural amenity of the immediate locality, and 2, the proposed clearing of native scrub is considered detrimental reduction of the natural resources values of a locality and a diminishment of its rural character. Then recommendation 3 is to advise the applicant accordingly, and number 4 is to advise those who lobbed a submission.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, councillors? There is no seconder, so the motion lapses. Unfortunately, Councillor Bowman. That takes us to the next motion, which is Councillor Catalano.
I wanted to second. I had my hand up to second Councillor Bowman's motion.
Well, that's fine, Councillor Catalano, but as I said previously tonight, sometimes I can't see the screen, and if you wanted to raise your hand, please do so by audio. I let it go for at least 5 or 6 seconds. I'm not going to...
Because of our technical issues today, can we make an exception here? Because it's very hard to hear and very hard to see, and
well,
Catalano is just not there. Are we able to accommodate our constraints tonight?
Well, I did make the exception earlier on and said, if I can't see you on the screen, please make it known audibly for those people at home so I can get some indication. But I let it go for 5 or more seconds before I called it notice without a seconder. So I'm not going to backtrack now. Thank you, Councillor
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
What about if I propose Councillor Bowman's motion?
What's been dealt with, Councillor Catalano? You've got your own proposed motion, and I'm calling on
Point
you
of
now.
order.
What's your point of order, Councillor? Sorry, I've got a point of order from Councillor Johnson, which I'll deal with first.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move a motion of dissent from your ruling, if I may.
You may. Do you have a seconder? And what's your exact ruling of dissent?
To overrule your decision that Councillor Catalano cannot second Councillor Bowman's motion for reason of technical difficulties.
Thank you. I'll ask, is there a second to that?
Mr Mayor, I'll second it only because of my experience the last 2 weeks.
where I was the only one on Zoom or
Thank
Teams.
you. Okay, I've got a mover and a seconder. Because it's a procedural motion, I'll put it straight to the vote. So those in favour of Councillor Johnston's dissent motion, please raise your hand now. I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor Johnston, Councillor Howlett, and if I could see the people online, please. I have Councillor Prodovnik and Councillor Catalano, which is a total of 5. The dissent motion is lost. My ruling will stand. Councillor Catalano, you've got an alternative motion. Would you like to read it out now, please? I think you've muted yourself, Councillor Catalano. We can't hear you.
Okay, I'd like to change my motion to not approve the animal training establishment I suppose caution or not approve the animal training establishment part of the application. Part of the application, up the dog kennel, put part of the application, thank you. And the reason, and then make number 2, approve the application for the house.
I'm going to have to stop you there, Councillor Catalano. I'll seek some advice either from the acting CEO or from the governance officer. That's the motion almost identical to Councillor Bowman's, which has just been dealt with and refused. So I can't accept another motion along exactly the same lines.
All right, well then just remove that section then with that second bit. So get rid of that too then, and just not approve the animal training establishment.
And as I still have to make the ruling, it's that item was defeated in Councillor Bowman's motion, and therefore I can't allow you to move the same or very similar motion.
Okay then. Well, I guess then it's back to my application then, isn't it?
Back to your original motion, yes, and that's what I've asked you to read. Would you like to read your proposed motion, Councillor Catalano? You're on mute again, Councillor Catalano.
2, record the reason for changing the officer recommendation is that the land is zoned general rural, and this is a discretionary, and this application, should read this application, is a discretionary activity requiring discretion of council, which should consider the adverse impact of dog barking on persons and horses on surrounding properties, external lighting on surrounding properties, clearing of native vegetation on environment, and dog waste into the groundwater.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. You're on mute, or we couldn't hear you for at least the first point 1. Do I take it it was as presented either on the whiteboard as you can see it, or in the running sheet, which you should have been provided a copy with earlier today? That was your motion as per... No,
that's not correct, actually. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. I'll then ask you... Thank you. I'll ask you to read your motion again from point 1. Thank you.
So the slight change is record the reason. Number 2.
No, we didn't hear. We didn't hear part 1 of your motion. I ask you to read that.
Part 1. Not approve any part of the development application for the single house and animal training establishment dog kennel at Lot 1. Number 102, Old West Road, Bullsbrook.
Thank you. We got the reason. So I'll ask if there's a seconder. Can I just see the councillors online, please? I'll call for a seconder. There is no seconder. The motion lapses. Councillors, I need a recommendation. Councillor McCulloch? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Is there anyone against? Do you wish to debate? And do you wish to debate it, Councillor Catalano? Thank you. Councillor McCulloch, if you could start your debate. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, before us we have a development application. Approvable. It's a comprehensive submission that details all aspects of the development. It's open, it's transparent and it's professional. All concerns and potential issues within the development have been clearly addressed to the satisfaction of the city officers. I'm satisfied also after very carefully reading through every aspect, talking to the proponent and talking to objectors. And I do respect objectors' objections, and that's why it is our duty, councillors, to speak to all parties to get opinions and to then reconcile those to fact, statistics and details. Councillors, issues have been, or concerns have been raised about many different things, and I'll raise some of those now. The clearing of certain vegetations. Well, look, the predominant vegetation is a coastal tea tree. It's native to and endemic to southeastern Australia, and in lots of areas introduced to other areas where it's considered to be an invasive weed. That poses a risk to our native vegetation. DEWA recommend removal of this vegetation, and there weren't any issues surrounding that. Councillors, we had an acoustic report detailed and comprehensive by a leading professional in WA. Even in a worst-case scenario, those noise regs will still comply and be adhered to in any and all circumstances. It's also important to note, as you're looking at the actual maps and the development, to note that where the training and kennel area is. They abut the two roads, and the house provides an additional buffer at the back of the property to one of those objectors who did have concerns.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
We also have an ex-police officer with vast experience with a young family looking to invest a significant amount in our city, both financially and for our community health and well-being. Within our local area there, and it's interesting to note, councillors, we have 2 other chicken farms, a market garden, transport depot and a roadhouse soon to be constructed. City officers have clearly identified that that zoning is correct for the land use, and this development will be a significant benefit to both our local community and wider City of Swan community. Expert local advice on dog training, dog rehabilitation and management. We have a huge population of dog owners, Ellenbrook, Averley, right through here. How exciting to have such experience that we can relate to. I know our community are excited about it and talking that they will readily access it. We've had issues with dogs, dog attacks on people. Australia Post have just raised major concerns.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch.
May I have
have you got much longer?
No.
Thank you. Continue.
They have raised significant concerns about dogs as well. So, councillors, I believe that even as the city, we can look at community engagement and utilise this development's and families' expertise in bringing great benefit to our City of Swan. We have so many dog parks with owners. There is great potential to build social capital and to benefit and empower and equip our dog owners to better manage their dogs as well. So, councillors, I urge you to consider this application that is very comprehensive and addresses and cites all the concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. As the seconder, Councillor Howlett, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm satisfied that the application has been very thorough in its nature and that the intent of the applicant is to be a good neighbour. I believe this business will be an asset to the City of Swan, and I urge you to support this application.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Bowman.
Mr Mayor, I don't think anyone has an issue with the proposed single house, and as such I request that this be put separately so not to overcomplicate things. I did try before, but I was unsuccessful in that suggestion. Councillors, what the applicant may or may not be able to do for others in the community is not what we're looking at. This is a planning item and we look on planning facts. If you live in a rural area, it is reasonable to expect a neighbouring property will be used as a dog kennel or dog training facility for 50 dogs? No, it's not. Otherwise, it would have been a P use. Council, the applicant wanted to put a colour-bond fence around the entire property. How does this fit with the rural amenity? I know of an example in the Vines when an owner installed around their 1 acre property on 3 sides, and the outcry of this. However, this was permitted as it was a residential zoning. The officers have recommended the colour-bond fence only around the training areas. We all heard from the applicant they were not happy with this and wanted more. Even what staff are now proposing has a detrimental impact on the rural amenity. Councillors, the clearing of vegetation in the 3 training areas, I do not believe this is exempt from having to obtain a permit. We're being told that it's not an issue for the City of Swan, and if it is required, then the only applicant is required to attain this and obviously faces any consequences if he doesn't and was required to. Proactive versus reactive is all I will say here. Councillors, the acoustic report is based on dogs, which could be up to 50 being in the kennels all day, all night, except for the kennel is getting cleaned and when they're being trained. Based on 50 dogs in 3 training areas, it will take, without breaks, 3 staff 8.5 hours, so let's say 8 to 4:30, to allow each dog in the training area for 30 minutes only. Add in breaks or extra times for those problem dogs, and this period gets bigger and bigger. Councillors, I asked the applicant at the agenda forum, why do they choose to locate the house where it is? And I'm not sure if anyone picked up on the response, but it was based on advice from their acoustic consultant. So the owners of this property, the owners of this business, and the owners of this house to be built chose the location for the least noise impact. And fairly obvious, this is not the noise impact from neighbours, it's not from the street, but it will be from the 50 dogs that will be on site. The applicant's current training facility, which we all heard about, is based on a much smaller block. And yes, we were advised to receive no complaints. But what we weren't told is this facility is a significantly smaller operation and the applicant is the only staff member. To compare the two would be like comparing a Great Dane to a poodle. They are both dogs, but that's about it. Councillors, I cannot support this application and I ask you to think how you would feel if you were a neighbour to this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Speaker for the motion. Question, Councillor Congerton.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cavallaro referred with her motion that it is all a discretionary activity. It's my understanding that the house is done P use and the facility is a D use. Can I just get the confirmation that's correct?
That's my understanding. Well, I'll defer to the planning staff if they're on line. And if you're we're having trouble hearing you, Councillor Congerton, if you're in a room by yourself, perhaps if you've got a question to ask, if you could just remove your mask for that time while you're speaking. Mr Russell, are you online?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I can tell you categorically, without even looking at the report, that P use for a single house is a P use. I haven't got the report in front of me and I can't access it, so I would just urge councillors to look at the report. In the background bit that will have the permissibility of the use, I'm sure Councillor Congerton is correct that it's a D use.
Thank you. Discretionary. Thank you. I'll now ask if there's any speakers for or against the motion. Councillor Catalano, do you indicate you want to speak?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You have three minutes. Thank you.
So the animal establishment is definitely discretionary use, and for good reason, because it is going to affect the rural amenity. It's basically a lot of dogs housed and a lot of noise and a lot of pollution in one place. And we heard last week from one of the deputies that came in that noise travels great distances out there, and no doubt people are going to be very, very troubled by dogs barking and crying at all times of the night. I mean, it's a really horrible lookout for those people there. The land is currently zoned general rural, if I read the report properly, and an animal establishment is only approved with discretion from the council. So yes, we have the ability to approve it, but should we approve it? And I'm saying no. We use our discretion here, and we do not approve the animal establishment. The noise being the very first problem, it is really going to upset a lot of people. It's going to upset the rural amenity out there. And the other thing is it's going to remove so much vegetation. Basically, the whole block, which is 2,500 square metres, is basically, well, that's 2.5 hectares, I believe, is going to be pretty much completely cleared of low-lying vegetation. And then I wonder what kind of impact that's going to have on the surface water, or the water that's running off from that property. And we know that this is the Ellenbrook catchment. It's going to be under an enormous amount of pressure. In fact, it even is now, and from those facilities that Councillor McCulloch talked about, like the...
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
And what have you, which, you know, we've approved that in the past. Let's not go down that track and make the same mistake. And, you know, we've only just heard about, in recent months, about the tortoises, those very rare tortoises just downstream from this. Look, the final thing I want to say is, you know, this is what's going to happen up in Bullsbrook from now on, because it's the peri-urban fringe. And guess what happens out of the peri-urban fringe? Basically, anything goes because land's cheap, and there's going to be very little oversight. So my belief is this is kind of facility that needs to be located in an industrial area. And that's soon going to be plenty of that kind of land in Bullsbrook. I think that the impact on the general rural zoning and the amenity, the rural amenity, is just too much. 50 house dogs, and I did also get some sort of slight understanding last week that there's going to be other dogs coming and going from that training centre as well. So, I mean, it seems to be an unknown number of dogs down there, you know, all times of the day and night. So,
thank you.
All I want to say, please oppose this.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. Any other speakers for or against the motion? There's no other speakers for or against? Then, Councillor McCulloch, you have up to 3 minutes for your right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, I don't believe, respectfully, that it is anything goes in that area. We are assessing this development based on planning grounds. Yes, we've discussed other aspects, and that's great. We care about our residents and our communities, and what a great benefit this is going to be. We've looked at the noise assessments, clarified, quantified, stated clearly. Yes, the house might be, and I've stated that in my debate, as a great buffer, and that adds additional comfort for concerned residents. Councillors, neighbours, I've been through there. I go past on almost a daily basis. The equine activities, the riding lessons, lights on in arenas, horse floats arriving and leaving, lots of rural pursuits. Block sizes, I know Councillor Bowman quoted with a previous business. Those block sizes are relevant to numbers of dogs. A previous business had a smaller number of dogs with a smaller block, run beautifully. Every neighbour supporting and couldn't speak highly enough. Councillors, we have the facts before us. So we could theorise, yes, till the cows come home. What may be, or maybe till the dogs come home. What may be, what might be, what I think it might be, what I foresee. Let me get my crystal ball out. Maybe I'll get my tarot cards out, I'm not sure. But we have the facts before us. This is of great benefit. This is a well-respected and proven applicant who I'm sure is going to conduct this business with the greatest of responsibility and integrity to the benefit of our city. I urge you to support this motion.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the motion. Those councillors in favour, you could raise your hand, please. I have Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Parry, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Congdon and Councillor Jones. The motion is passed. Councillors against were Councillors Bowman, Councillor Knight, Councillor Catalano and myself, which is 4. The motion is carried 9-4. Thank you, councillors. That takes us to the next item, item 4.7. It's removal of lawn and concrete lawn area for vehicle parking, Camboon Road, Malaga. It's on page 463 of your agenda, and it's Councillor Congdon. Are you there, Councillor Congdon? Thank you. If your motion is the same as the staff recommendation other than some red writing in the run sheet, then I'll just get you to read out the deletion. Thank you. The change. Thank you. Thank you.
And a minimum 1 metre wide landscape strip across the frontage to have a edge frontage within a minimum height of 1 metre, species noted on the legend. Has to be removed, and the insertion is reinstate the garden bed to the right of the lot driveway and reinstate the garden bed under the lead-to the restoration phase.
Thank you. I'll have a seconder. Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? Can I just see the councillors at home, please? Being no one against, I declare that carried unanimously. And that takes us, councillors, to the next item, item 4.8, proposed outbuilding within the asset protection zone, variation of the provision of local development plan, Stark Turn, Allenbrook. Councillor Henderson. It's on page 484 of the agenda, councillors.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't stand so that I can speak closely to the microphone. I move that Council resolve to 1. Approve the proposed outbuilding on lot 6756, number 29, Stark Turn, Ellerbrook, subject to the following conditions. The shed is to be wholly of steel construction. 2. All stormwater generated by the outbuilding is to be contained wholly on site. 3. No gutter, downpipe or fittings that would accumulate combustible material to be fitted. And the reason for the change, the officer's recommendation, is that a basic steel structure free of combustible materials should pose a minimal potential fire risk to surrounding properties.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Knight. Is there anyone against, councillors? You wish to debate it, Councillor Bowman? No. Can I just see the councillors at home again on the screen? No one against? Other than Councillor Bowman, who doesn't wish to discuss it, then I'm going to put it to the vote. Those in favour? Can I see those at home on the screen, please? Other than Councillor Bowman and Councillor Prodovnik, everyone else is in favour. I declare the motion carried. Councillor Bowman and Prodovnik were against. Thank you. Moving to the next item. It's item 5.1. Construction of a workshop at the Midlands Men's Shed. It's on page 499, councillors.
Question, Mr Mayor. Did
Yes.
we not say we were going to do C 3.2?
Yeah, sorry. Mr Mayor. You've got confidential.
Yes, we'll go to... We will, sorry. I was just following the run sheet. I'd put my separate piece of paper in front of me. So I've got a motion to go behind closed doors. Moved Councillor Bowman, seconded Councillor Johnson. Is there anyone against? Being no against, declare that carried unanimously. The council is now moving behind closed doors to discuss some confidential items. To give a summary of matters discussed behind closed doors, in relation to item C 3.2, property acquisition, the Crescent Midland, Council made a decision that will be made following an upcoming Midland Oval workshop review, and then we'll inform the proponents there, or the applicants. On item C 3.3, Council resolved to undertake self-directed individual learning. And on Midlands Men's Shed, and I'm just looking for the item number 5.1, the officer's recommendation with an additional 0.5 was included to review our grant and tendering processes, and a report will come back to Council within the next 6 months. Councillor Parry, thank you.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I wish to move that we discuss 6.3 and 6.6 first, due to the timing of it and the implications of it. And we can go back to 3.3 if we have time necessary in the Cs afterwards, please.
Thank you. I've had a motion from Councillor Parry to change the order of proceedings. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Henderson, is there anyone against that? Can I just see the screen to see if Councillor Podovnik or Catalano are against? No, not against. So, Councillor Parry, item 6.3.
I'll move the officer's recommendation for 6.3, please.
Thank you. Item 6.3 is on page 570, budget adjustments, May 2022. I've had a mover in Councillor Parry. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson, is there anyone against? You wish to debate it, Councillor Bowman? You do. So, Councillor Parry, over to you. Thank you. You've got 3 minutes.
I'll let Councillor Bowman do his debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson is a seconder. Don't wish to. Thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Councillors, I went into detail last month, so I'll save everyone the expense of having to listen to me again. But I couldn't help but pick up on what the Mayor said previously when something slipped past him in a budget amendment. Slipped past him. Councillors, we've only got 3 items this month, but whether it's 3 or the 182 like last month, the issue is still the same. We need to change the way this is being done, and I will keep raising this and keep voting against it until we change that process. And I think 5.1 just shows you the reasons why.
Yes, in fairness, Councillor Bowman, that item slipped past me when I wasn't the Mayor. Indicated that even the Mayor let one go through to the keeper, but at the time it did. I don't believe I was the Mayor on that. I am the Mayor now, yes. Thank you. Speaker for the motion, or any other speakers for or against the motion? No other speakers. Councillor Parry, you wish to have your right of reply?
Put it to a vote, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the motion, which is the officer's recommendation. Those in favour? I have Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Knight, Councillor Parry, myself, Councillor Podovnik, which is 9, and against is Councillor Bowman and Councillor Catalano. I declare the motion carried. What was the next one you mentioned?
6.6, Mr Mayor, but a proposed 2022-23 differentiation.
Yes, thank you. And Councillor Bowman, you had withdrawn that one. Item 6.6 on page 582. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that Council resolves that the item be deferred until more financial information or more detailed financial information is provided to Council, including but not limited to the draft operating expenditure budget.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Knight is. Sorry, I've got Councillor Knight as a seconder. Councillor Catalano. Thank you. Is there anyone against? You wish to debate it, Councillor Parry?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. You've got 3 minutes just to open your debate. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, to put this simply, you can't keep adding extra services, extra costs and extra capital unless you increase rates or you reduce operating expenditure. Over the last few months, I have seen time and time again councillors agreeing to increase expenditure, adding new additional services or costs, while not supporting changes that would bring about cost savings. These very same councillors have consistently stated they support a 0% rate increase. It simply doesn't work. It may not sound much at the time, an extra 20 grand here, an extra 50 grand there, but these small amounts, if you can call them small amounts, They add up very quickly. Councillors, I fear that some have heard the word balanced budget. They are of the view that everything is then okay. Councillors, wipe 10% from the rates, and I could, and I know staff could, provide a balanced budget. But it would not be a financially responsible budget, and this is what we must consider. Councillors, you know better than me that Council has had a 0% rate increase for the last 2 years, and for most are wanting to see a 0% rate increase this year again. Councillors, most metropolitan local governments this year are looking at a rate increase of 4%. Why? This is because their costs have over the last few years gone up and are planning on increasing yet again. Does this mean we should increase our rates by 4% because everyone else is? Absolutely not. But we need to ensure that we're being financially responsible. I have been previously advised that the level of information, the draft budget that was put for us recently, and in simple terms, as I've only 3 minutes to speak and will take much longer to fully explain the financial consequences, the extra money that we need to operate, which is being taken from capital expenditure, which is predominantly renewals. Councillors, imagine not spending money fixing issues with your house, as you prefer to spend money at the pub or on new shoes, etc. Just two I picked. What happens to your house over time?
Yeah, 1 minute left.
When you allow this to happen, I'll be asking for longer. It becomes run down, and this is what will happen to our assets, our community facilities, which residents and ratepayers keep telling us we need to upgrade. Look at the dollar amount we're proposing to spend on capital renewals this year, and compare that with what we spent the previous 3 years. Now look at our balance sheet and note how the value of our capital has increased, and then look at the local government cost index over that time and determine the increase in costs. And this is how far we are behind from 3 years ago. We have seen and heard a lot on TV lately about the CPI, but this is not a good reflection on what is happening with the costs for local governments. And as such, the local government cost index is a far more accurate and practical measure, a measure that appears to not be widely known. I have said over and over again, I support a 0% rate increase, but only if the savings is identified in the operating budget. I have for some time indicated this was a ballpark figure of $10 million, and I must say I'm pretty close. Councillors, you're aware that I have concerns with how we do budget adjustments and how we do this each and every month, and that is predominantly because we don't get our budgets correct. Councillors, we've just been talking about item 5.1 on tonight's agenda, and that illustrates we need to do more work. Councillors, we only had 2 budget workshops. Some would say 3 as they were rolled into one, but I have not seen any operating expenses. I acknowledge I have previously advised that the level of information and what I expect is currently not achievable at the City of Swan, and that it will take time. But I keep asking myself, why? How can I, in my role as a councillor, make a good and responsible financial decision without this information? Surely the operating expenditure is a requirement for when the budget is adopted. Councillors, not enough has been done, not enough by us, not enough by staff, to allow us to responsibly agree to a 0% rate increase. I think we can achieve a 0% rate increase and do this while also being financially responsible, but it involves more work and it involves some tough decisions. To have a 0% rate increase, we must produce savings. However, I fear that some around this table do not have this level of appetite or are making decisions without fully understanding the financial consequences. Have a look at the wish list, and I'm using the term wish list, I'm happy to someone call me a point of order, that some councillors put forward. Although I expect that some ratepayers believe we have this magic pot of gold, I know we all realise that this is unfortunately not the case. Councillors, I cannot support the officer's recommendation, as to do so would result in me being financially irresponsible. I am moving the deferral motion to allow us to roll up our sleeves and do more work to find savings, to review services. Councillors, staff will advise that this item needs to be dealt with tonight, and we already received an email that's listed as a priority 1, as we need to meet budget adoption timelines. Yes, that is correct if we simply do what we have done in the past. But if we keep doing the same as we've done in the past, we'll keep having the same problem, and maybe this is where we are now.
Have you got much further, Councillor Bowman, to go?
20 seconds.
Thank you. Keep
Examine
going.
the statutory processes, the relevant legislation, and you will realise that we do not have to adopt this item for at least another 2 weeks. 2 weeks of hard work where everyone is willing to do so will allow us to responsibly have a 0% rate increase.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Speaker against the motion.
I did enjoy Councillor Bowman's presentation. It was very enjoyable. But in fact, if you read his motion again, it says that the item be deferred until more financial information is provided to Council. But the point of the motion is to advertise the following differential rates and minimum rates for 2022-23 financial year. All this motion is trying to do is give a synopsis of where we presume we want to be as a council as well. Now, there is additional information we can call upon staff and stuff like that. There's nothing stopping councillors now to continue asking those questions. You can start by tomorrow as well, Councillor Bowman. If you want further information, you're more than welcome to ask then and there. And you can continue asking those questions, and then we can get the recommendation back from the community as well, like we've always done in the past as well. If you feel that passionate about it, Councillor Bowman, that's okay. I don't mind the passion. There's no issue in regards to that. But stopping the advertising to do differential rates is not financially responsible as well. We need to ensure that they get it to a point. We need to get it to a point where the community has been involved and they can give us their analysis as well. That's all we're doing with this motion, Councillor.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion.
Councillor Catalano. He's got a hand up.
You want to speak, Councillor Catalano? Can you hear me, Councillor Catalano? Is there any other speakers for or against the motion in the meantime? Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, as Councillor Parry pointed out, what we are doing here is we are advertising that we are intending to set a differential rate, which we do every year. And my understanding is that that's GIV, UIV, and we've got UV, and we've got 3 different types of each of those. So what we are doing is advertising, in effect, the percent increase. And at the agenda forum, I was concerned that because we had just got information from the ABS that the inflation rate in Australia was 5.1%, had just been announced, and in fact 7.6% in Perth, that we needed to stop and think, are we doing the right thing here, going ahead with a 0% rate increase? I posed the question, and on Monday we got a response from Ms Lay. So the city's response is that, yes, this can be done. The reason being that the increase is already baked in. There's a detailed explanation as to where the money is going to come from. Right at the end it says, due to new information available since the draft budget was last presented and the rates modelling prepared, with the final issues and adjustments to interim rates, an additional $1.3 million of rates revenue will be levied in financial year 22-23, no doubt because we've got new houses and new buildings. And this amount is sufficient to cover the impact of the announced CPI to the service contracts of $1.36 million. So it's clear to me that from this, and this email came as a surprise to me. I was genuinely surprised by it because I'd already sent in an alternate motion, councillors, to change the advertised rate increase to, I think it was going to be something like 2%. And there's a rationale for that number based upon the CPI. But what Ms Lay is advising, and presumably endorsed by the CEO, is that this is not necessary. The CEO, the city has already baked in, included a forecast CPI of 2.75%. But as also, I think it says in the email, basically the one item in CPI that particularly affects the city is transport, cost of transport, which is 15.5%. The city already knew about that and has already included that in the budget.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So really, that is why we can actually afford to do this. It came as a surprise, but it can be done. So, councillors, this is the meeting at which we ought to be deciding the percent rate increase. But at a later meeting, which I believe is in June, that's when we are actually setting the budget. We're not doing that now. We're not setting the rate now. All we're doing is advertising our intention to set a differential rate, and we are notifying that the percent increase is 0%. And the staff are saying it can be done. I don't believe we are chewing into our reserves to any great extent. I think it's perfectly doable.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Speaker, any other speakers for or against? Councillor Henderson.
I'm going to speak against and just perhaps outline some reasoning. We clearly have to go out to public consultation, and the important thing is that the public will tell us what they think. But importantly, I wanted to touch on the one issue that's been a pain in my side and Councillor Zanino's for a considerable amount of time. That's the UV rating category, particularly in the rural areas. And to note again that I was very disappointed that we've had a long time since the Minister's letter advising us how to proceed, and this hasn't progressed. So it means that we're going to skip through another cycle of rates where it's not going to be addressed. Maybe it might get addressed by the next round, I don't know. The point is it does have to be addressed, and I expect we'll see lots of submissions from people in response about the UV inequity that people see, and then what are we going to do to manage that and repair the problems that we have. So that's my take, is that we do need to go out there and find out what people think, and then we can progress. In the meantime, I do believe that we need to ask questions at every opportunity of staff to ensure that when we do actually set the rate, that's in July, councillors, not now, when we do actually set it, that we've got all of the answers before us. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Any other speakers for or against?
Yes, I'd like to say something, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Catalano. Please proceed.
I want to actually just briefly talk about the UV and the farmland and the. I know that this has come up year after year since I've been on council, and I know it was a big issue even years before that, because you know that whole GRV and farmland and UV issues in the city of Swan isn't resolved, and there's currently, you know, quite a lot of people who aren't using their properties for farming purposes, who are getting a substantial rate decrease. You know, it's got to be rationalised, it's got to be sorted out. It's just, once again, we're kicking the can down the road about that and making that hard decision. And these are the sort of hard decisions that we do have to make. Not only just cutting costs, but actually starting to tackle, you know, real rating issues in the city of Swan now that we've got substantial changes to land use. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was we had this also an assumption that, or some sort of, I think it's a presumption actually. It doesn't even say, it's not a policy. It doesn't seem to, we don't even seem to know where it comes from. But the presumption is that the amount of income that comes from UV rates and the amount that comes from GRV, GRV rate, is going to be split. Well, we've asked some questions, I've asked some questions, and still haven't got a really serious answer, except to say, oh, that's the way we've always done it. Yeah, but is that the right way we should be doing it? Because what we're doing is just taking very old principles or very old presumptions, very old rating structures, and just carrying on them down the track. And, you know...
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
Today, it's going to leave us very short. And in fact, you know what, it already is, actually, because throughout my ward, assets are being run down as I speak. Throughout Midland, assets are being run down as I speak. They've been running down for decades. So, you know, there's a lot of hard work to do, not just on cutting costs, but on getting those rating structures right and making them very hard and maybe unpopular, but if you explain it properly, people might get it, those kind of decisions. So that at the end of the day, this council is sustainable economically and financially. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. Any other speakers for or against? Then before I ask you for your right of reply, Councillor Bowman, I'll enter the debate, and this time I'll ask Councillor Henderson to chair the meeting while I enter the debate, if there's no objection to that. Councillors, I'm not going to support the motion, but maybe it's for different reasons, because I do believe we do need a rate increase, and it should be modest in the order of 1.5 or maximum of 2%, and there's a number of reasons why. I've just heard Councillor Catalano saying our assets need fixing up and we just haven't got the money to do it. We'll never have the money to do it if we keep having a 0% rate increase. This is the third year in a row. I believe that the City of Swan may be the only local government in the state to have 3 years of 0% rate increase. I asked the CEO the other day, and through Ms Lay, Wanneroo's 4%, Coburn, I think it was 3.7. So they're looking at well over 3%, and some are over 4.7. I think Kalamunda was 4.7%. Bearing in mind that electricity, water and fuel have gone up, the City of Swan pay for the street lights to be on at night time, so the electricity goes up. We run major aquatic facilities and libraries and sports centres and community centres. I know when I visit the Altone or the Beachborough Swan Active, lots of people, and not only in the pool, but when they get out of the pool, they go and have a shower to get rid of the chlorine off them. So that's more costs. This year, I believe our staff are entitled to a wage increase of up to 2.5 or 2.7%. If we keep having 0% rate increases, will not be sustainable, and I think it's be responsible, and that's why I'm not going to support this deferral, but I won't be supporting a 0% come the time to adopt the budget either. I think a small increase would be totally understandable by the residents and the ratepayers. I think they would understand.
1 minute, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I think they'd understand when other local governments are going up by as much as 4% or more, that we should have a very modest increase in our rate base. And I know everyone wants to be a zero hero because it looks good, but long-term financial sustainability, it is bad for the City of Swan, and that's why I couldn't support it when it comes to that debate. And that's the reason I'm not going to support this motion. Having said that, Councillor Bowman, I invite you for your right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, Councillor Parry, I had higher expectations of you. I had higher expectations from your financial background. You should know, Councillor Parry, that this is about the budget. How do we work out what rate in the dollar we're going out to advertise? We have a draft budget. If we don't have a draft budget, we don't go out to advertise. If we're going out to advertise something that we know we can't adhere to, again, that would be like Councillor Parry having a Tinder profile saying he's tall, dark and handsome, when in actual fact it's not. We need to be advertising what our intent is.
Taller than you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you.
I heard, Mr Mayor, you said about the 2% increase. I agree we need more money, but increasing our rates is the easy way. And I can tell you, I'm not a zero to hero. I'm the Roger the responsible here. We need to actually look at what our budget consists of. I hear councillors say we can have further conversations. I think it was Councillor Johnson, Councillor Parry. We can have further conversations. What can I consult on and what can I have my conversations on when I haven't seen operating expenditure? One of the biggest issues for the City of Swan, operating expenditure. How do I know how much we're going to spend designing and constructing the next men's shed? How much do I know how much we're going to be designing and using consultants for?
Point of order, Mr Mayor. That's an incorrect statement.
What's your point of order, Councillor?
Because that's, well, Capital Works is the men's shed, so he's completely contradicting himself, and he should know better with his financial background too.
Thank you. I'll take it you've got no point of order. If you can please continue, Councillor Bowman. You've got 1:20 left.
Mr Mayor, for the first time I heard about a 2.7% increase that we need to pay staff. Maybe we have to look at reducing our staff costs by 2.7%. These are the things that we need to have the serious conversations about. We are going out with a 0% rate increase, advertising that, where I think some councillors don't agree with it. If you don't agree with it, defer it. You should not be going out advertising on false pretense. Councillors, we know what the budget was like when we got it. We know the issues. And if you don't know the issues, well, I really suggest we need to have a better look at it, because this is a $180 million organisation and we need to start running the finances like that. And that starts now on what we should advertise. Councillors, don't be fooled that we have to do it now. We don't have to do it now. Read the legislation, read what the requirement is, 21 days notice. If you still want to adopt the budget on the 6th of July council meeting, we still can. It's called hard work. But if you don't want to do hard work, guess what, councillors? We're going to start cutting projects and we're going to cut and cut and cut.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'm now going to put your motion to the vote. Those councillors in favour, please raise your hand. I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor Knight, Councillor Catalano and Councillor Prodovnik, which is 4. The motion is lost. And Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Zanino and Councillor Parry and myself were against. Thank you.
Move the officer's recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Parry is moving the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Zanino, is there anyone against? Do you wish to debate it, Councillor Bowman? Councillor Catalano or Prodovnik, do you wish to debate the officer's recommendation?
No, but I am against it.
Thank you. Well, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? I have Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Prodovnik, which I've got 9 and 2 against, being Councillor Catalano and Councillor Bowman. I declare the officer's recommendation carried. Thank you. I believe that now takes us to item 7.6, councillors.
3.3 and then 7.6. We haven't done 3.3 yet.
Okay, I've got to find it on my run sheet. I haven't got it.
So homelessness report.
No, I don't. Where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. I'm advised we're on the homelessness report, councillors. I can't give you a page number at this. 13. Thank you, and I believe there's a alternative recommendation, is there?
Yep, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Sorry about that. I apologise.
That's okay. Mr Mayor, before I start, I just wanted to see if Councillor Catalano would be happy for me to combine some of hers with some of mine so we can hit it all in one. And that would be...
I would love that.
Okay, so let me read it and then see if everyone's happy with this. It'd be 1, note the homelessness in the City of Swan update provided in this report. 2, endorse that better addressing homelessness is a council priority as identified via council-led service planning for 22-23. 3, reallocate 0.5 FTE from the existing staffing structure within the Community Wellbeing Directorate from identified FTE savings. 2, and then we put in Councillor Catalano's A, B and C, which was improve coordination and outcomes delivered via the Midland Alliance to end homelessness. B, prioritise a reduction in the street present homelessness in the city. C, advocate and lobby to the state government to increase affordable housing and housing for the homeless across the whole metropolitan area. Then we go back to my number 4, which is provide an annual report against the current benchmark and homelessness status in the city, which is actually, I'm not taking the credit for that, that was Councillor Henderson. And then 5, record the reasons for changing the offer recommendations is that continually increasing operating costs puts pressure on a need for a rate increase.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Catalano is seconding that. Is there anyone against, councillors?
Just a question in regard to point 3. Is that more of a city operational matter, or is it something that we can determine?
Mr Bishop?
Through you, Mr Mayor, if that's the wish of council, for it to be taken from that directorate, then we will make the operational decision within that directorate.
Thank you. I'll ask once again, is there any councillor against the motion? Being no one against, then I declare it carried. Thank you, staff. Thank you, staff. Thank you, councillors. And staff. It's getting late.
7.6.
Next item, councillors, item 7.6, annual meeting of electors, motion 23, water fountains, Bennett Springs, on page 621. And you'll note there's a correction in the run sheet that Pegasus Park and Fountain Park do have drink fountains, however they're not up to the new standard. This changes the wording of option 1 to now state 7 parks require new fountains and 5 require renewal, but does not change option 2, which is the recommended option. Councillor Bowman, you have an alternative?
I do, Mr Mayor. The Council resolves the Officers investigate and report back to Council to allow for consideration in the draft long-term financial plan for 23-24 a list of all City of Swan parks that should have the installation of drink fountains for personal and/or animal use. The report is include all identified parks ranked in order of priority.
And a reason, please?
The reason is to ensure a citywide approach is taken.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against?
I have a question.
Councillor Howlett, you have a question?
Thank you. My question through Mr Mayor is the report is to include all identified parks ranked in order of priority. What's the priority ranking for this?
Mr Jacowina, is that a question for you?
Then we can take suggestions from council, but with priority we would consider the hierarchy of the park, so whether it's local park, a district park, neighbourhood park, and we would also consider the local wards as well, and we could consider trying to do an equal spread of fountains across woods, but we're happy to take recommendation from council on that.
Thank you. Does that satisfy your question, Councillor Howlett?
Not particularly. I think Councillor Bowman wants to add some more to that, please.
Councillor Bowman?
Well, Mr Mayor, it doesn't satisfy me because that's the very nature of my motion goes against what we've just been told by officers. And I'm happy to go in debate because I'm probably going to start going debate otherwise.
Well, I'll ask if there's anyone against first.
Yes, I am against. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then I'll ask you to open your debate, Councillor Bowman.
Councillors, I'll make this fairly quick. We should be looking, and I've got notes, but I'm going to go off notes, so that's always not good. We shouldn't be looking at individual parks and going, someone goes, this is where we should have it. Councillors shouldn't be doing it. If we're going to look at an issue, we need to look at it citywide. We need to broaden the horizon. We need to forget the fact that we have wards. It may be that Pegasus Park and Fountain Park are the 2 highest priority parks in need of this. And if that's the case, great. But if there's other parks across the city that's more a priority, and I agree based on hierarchy, then why wouldn't we address those first? I'm a councillor elected by the Pearce Ward councillors, and I thank them, residents, and I thank them for that. But my role is to represent all residents and ratepayers of the City of Swan. And as such, if the top 5 identified need parks are in the Midland Guildford ward, that's where the funds should be allocated. Staff should be fairly easy to be able to pull this information together. I expect most of what is there is already there. But I would like staff to give us that priority. This is how we make fully informed decisions. This is how we ensure we're getting the best value from our budgets, which affect our rates. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Parry is the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Howlett, you should speak against the motion.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Anderson.
Councillors, I support the motion, and I just want to do so by saying that I recall this coming to council quite a few years ago when the cost of water fountains and the like in parks was considered to be quite excessive, because there was a time when I believe the Water Authority might have provided them, the state in other words. So I think when we get down to this, it's going to be a question of, okay, what is it really going to cost? And I think that that will come out as part and parcel of the draft budgeting process. But importantly, we've got to justify the cost of these things, the maintenance costs and the like that come with these projects to fulfil what some people want and some people don't want, because they'd rather see money spent elsewhere. So again, it comes down to us identifying the key things that community want, the key things the community need. I mean, I always take a water bottle with me when I go out, but this process will allow for that. And I thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Catalano or Councillor Prodovnik, you wish to speak to this item? No. Any other speakers, councillors? Councillor Bowman, you're right to reply. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I don't think I've got anything because no one spoke against.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the motion. Those councillors in favour. Can I see the online screen? It's unanimous. Thank you. Now that completes all the items other than the Part C. Yep.
Motion to the previous notice has been given.
Yep. Thank you, councillors. We're now going to Part C, other business and closing procedures, and C 1.1. Councillor Zanina, you've got a notice of motion. It's on page 629, but it may have been changed, so I'd ask you to look at the whiteboard. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I rise to move that the council undertake regular maintenance of the access track on Bolognese Drive in Brigadoon. 2, write to Landgate with a copy to the Minister for Land seeking a naming of this right-of-way so it can be added to the register of street names. 3, request that the Minister dedicate this land as a road. And 4, the reasons for this motion is that this right-of-way has been used by residents for over 30 years and is the only access for lots 28, lot 30, lot 32, lot 36, lot 38 and lot 40, and also lot 74 Brigadoon. The Land Act provides that the road can be created after the right-of-way has been used as a road for more than 10 years. Creating the road would ensure that the City of Swan will maintain this road, ensure that the temporary emergency services are able to identify and have safe access to these residents and properties, as well as providing safe access for residents on a daily basis.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Henderson. Because the original notice of motion was changed somewhat substantially, I'll ask the Acting CEO for an oral update on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, this has been changed, I believe, today, and is quite a significant amendment to the notice of motion. My recommendation, Mr Mayor, is that Council consider deferring this to the June meeting to allow staff to prepare a report on the implications and potential costs of taking and acting this motion if it was resolved, with all due respect.
I have questions. Okay, I'll deal with Councillor Bowman first. Your question, thank you, Councillor Bowman.
So if we request that it be dedicated as a road, will there be a cost in purchasing the land? And if so, what's the cost?
Well, I think that's why the acting CEO just asked for a deferral, so we can get more information to answer a lot of the questions that are now going to be raised.
But will we have to purchase the land?
I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess that's one of the many questions we would just need to go through.
Okay, and then my next question is, if dedicated as a road, as my understanding is the road's got to be kept to a certain standard, and therefore we can't just, as per recommendation 1, undertake regular maintenance of the access track, because you need to get it to a certain standard, and with that standard then cost more than $15,000 per year to maintain.
Well, my understanding is that the road would have to be constructed to be kept to a minimum standard, so it means the construction of a road, and I think that's why the acting CEO is asking for a deferral, so all that information can be presented to council in a full report, so we understand the full financial cost. Councillor Prodovnik, did you say you had a question? Oh, sorry, Councillor. Sorry, Councillor Prodovnik. Councillor Bowman's got one more, and I'll defer to you.
Will the report that comes back, if it gets deferred, so we can make a fully informed decision, tell us what the impact is on our rates as well?
We can make sure that's included in the report.
Councillor Prodovnik, you had a question?
Oh, no, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Catalano, question?
Sorry, but when it says undertake regular maintenance, I mean, I do remember this figure of 15,000 was bandied around in the report, but I mean, is that what it's going to cost, or we're going to end up with down the track? Well, suddenly it's now 50,000, or now it's suddenly $100,000 a year, and it's, you know, how long is this going to go on for? You know, it's just. It needs to be more specific than regular maintenance. I mean, what does that mean? It can mean anything, can't it, in terms of financial commitments?
I think from what the acting CEO was trying to say, if we can defer this item so we can get that information back to council so we can make an informed decision. The undertake the regular maintenance was listed as approximately $15,000 a year, but that was to maintain the access track. Now the new Part 4 talks about creating a road. Well, that road would have to be constructed, and I believe that could cost somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000, and then it would have to be maintained to Australian standards as per other roads. So that's why the acting CEO has requested it be deferred, so we can get all that information so we can make an informed decision, because it does have financial implications, councillors. Well, I've got a motion before us. Thank you. We'll enter the debate unless the mover and the seconder agree to defer the motion. Councillor Johnson, sorry, I forget.
Yeah, my question is, isn't it surely the better process is just to modify the form of the motion so it requests a report, that the CEO report to council on the feasibility and desirability of 1, 2 and 3 for the reason that 4. So that's the better process.
Well, I've got a motion. It's been moved and seconded. We've had a number of questions. We'll
I'd like to amend it.
Well, I'll just defer to the mover and the seconder to get their input, whether you take on board what the acting CEO said and any other amendment proposed by Councillor Johnson to defer this item.
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question?
You may, yes.
My question is, unless you write to Landgate and the Minister, how are you going to find out whether this is going to be acceptable? And also, 3, request the Minister to dedicate it as a road. Unless you write to the Minister, you don't know what the Minister is going to answer. Yes, no, maybe. This motion is not committing this council to any funds. The only thing that it's committing is, number 1, to undertake regular maintenance of the track, which is the $10,000 to $15,000. The rest is find out if these things are permissible, and then due process would take place, because if the minister was to accept it and say, yes, it's going to be a dedicated road, my understanding is that it wouldn't cost this council anything for the land, because the land is...
Okay,
that's the purpose that it's used for.
Well, I don't know if you're asking a question or almost entering debate, Councillor Zanino. So I've got a mover and a seconder. I've got people in opposition, so I'll ask you to now debate your notice of motion.
I think we're all on the same page. It's just the wording. If that's what Councillor Zanino's intent is, not to commit, I think that's some problem, a big problem. That's probably why Councillor Parry and myself wanted to defer it to get the information. Councillor Johnson pretty well said the same. Just think if the wording's changed.
Can we just remove the number 4, because that makes it confusing on that sort of like part of the motion? It's the reason, isn't it?
Well, if you request the minister to dedicate the land as a road, then it's going to be a road, isn't it? So you've got to know how much it's going to cost before you make that request. So actually, number 3 is probably not, it shouldn't be included either.
3 is probably important, but 4 is the reason. It's confusing because it looks like a motion, but it's...
Thank you, councillors. This has caused confusion. I'm going to ask Councillor Zanino if he'd like to amend his motion, or I'm going to ask him to debate it. Yeah, he can amend it. Well, I'll take a question from Councillor Bowman first.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask Councillor Zanino, is his intent, 1, we quickly get in before winter time to put some gravel on that road so then it hasn't got that problem, and then 2, we investigate how and what it'll cost, etc., to dedicate the land as a road? Is that the intent of what he's trying to do?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The intent of the motion is to get in there as soon as possible, because, councillors, I urge you all to take a drive and go and have a look at the state of this access way. It is urgently in need of repairs. Okay? 2 and 3 are follow-ons to find out the possibilities. And then, once we find out the possibilities, it would come back to this council to accept or not accept.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask Councillor Zanino another question? And that question would be, would it be better that recommendation 1 is that council undertake urgent repairs of the access track of Bolognese Drive, Brigadoon, to allow safe access for the owners to their property? That's number 1. And then number 2, that staff provide a report to council on all matters, including legal and financial costs, in dedicating this land as a road, which I would expect then, and I'm looking at the acting CEO, that would include writing to the minister to see whether they would do it or not, and those type of things. Is that a better wording and to doing it? It seems like it meets the intent, and I don't think anyone's against the intent. It's just the wording.
I'll leave that up to Councillor Zanino either to accept or reject that.
If I can amend my motion to state that 1, undertake regular maintenance of the access track on Bolognese Drive, Brigadoon, as soon as possible, and then that officers investigate the possibility of 2, writing to Landgate to copy the minister, and 3, and the reason is the reason. I mean, that's not a motion.
Thank you. And I don't know if you can amend your own motion, but I'll take that as an amendment from Councillor Bowman, which you can agree to.
Because under our meeting procedure, local laws, no one's debated against the motion, so therefore the mover and seconder, or the mover can with approval of the seconder.
Thank you. And you agree with that, Councillor Zanino? So we're pretty well back to your original notice of motion, which was to undertake regular maintenance. We've just added the word urgent in there because we know it's got to be done quickly to make it safe, and then we can investigate all those other issues raised in items 2, 3 and 4. I'm happy with that if he's second. He's indicated he is. Thank you. It was either Councillor Prodovnik or Catalano. You had a question or...
Sorry, I know this is probably a pedantic thing, but the reason should be numbered, should it? I just find that confusing because it just looks like it's part of the motion, and the reason's quite separate. Is that, am I got that wrong? It confuses me a bit.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I can answer that because I've actually questioned that a little while ago, and the advice that came back from the Manager of Governance was advice from the Department of Local Government is that your reason for changing it should actually be a numbered motion.
Okay, but this isn't the reason for changing it. This was the original reason.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. As long as we're all aware...
I'd like to just add something as well. That city officers investigate the possibility and the costs. Because the whole thing is about costs.
That'll be part of the report, Councillor Catalano. That will be part of the report. Thank you. So Councillor Zanino and Councillor Henderson, as a mover and a seconder, you're now happy with what we've got before us. I'll ask, is there anyone against?
One question. We've got undertake regular maintenance. That means we're going to continue doing it, but I don't know what level. Could it not be just undertake urgent maintenance? That gets that through, and then we investigate. Because I want to see what that regular maintenance is going to cost if it's going to be at a high level road.
Yeah. Well, it was about 15,000 a year as the track. That's right. So let's get the report back, and then we can make further considerations. So I'll ask, is there anyone against the motion as it stands before us, councillors? What's your amendment, Councillor Bowman?
Replace the word regular with urgent.
I think it had been.
No, it hadn't. Oh. That's why I just asked the question.
Well, I thought it...
Does the mover and seconder...
Can we change it and see if... I think they agreed to that. I saw it typed in now. Maybe it was down below, but I did see the word undertake urgent maintenance. So, can I just... yes, Councillor Catalano.
Yeah, I mean, what about the construction of the road? Are we not going to ask for some sort of...
We're asking for a report to come back to council.
Well, is that not what this investigation is about? It's not just about writing to Landgate and requesting the Minister to dedicate... Aren't we doing more than that? Aren't we asking for, like, costs of building the road?
Step one is to undertake some urgent maintenance to get it up to a standard where people can access it. And all the other items, such as writing to Landgate, seeking the Minister, finding out financial costs, will come back in a future report.
Yeah, but costs of what? Right now you've only got costs of writing to Landgate and dedicating the land as a road. That's all you've got the costs of. What about the cost of construction?
And that's what the report will cover, Councillor Catalano, so we can make an informed decision. Well, if you want to be pedantic all night, councillors, it's after 10 o'clock. We'll just keep going.
And give the staff the correct guidance so they go off and do what we want them to do.
So you're proposing an amendment?
I have to pull you up there because it really isn't pedantic, because that is our job to give them the right guidance.
Fine. Thank you, Councillor Catalano. You can move an amendment.
Well, if you don't mind retracting that, it's not pedantic. Thank you.
I'll retract my word pedantic, Councillor Catalano, but as I said, it's after 10 o'clock. Can you please move your motion?
Well, I'm just saying there needs to be, and see, construction of the road. C needs to have construction of the road. Investigate the possibility and the costs of C. You see A, B, C. No, No, not there. A, B, C. A, B, C.
Right, we'll
No.
move it down.
No.
So she's just
No,
checking
it
after.
belongs to C.
Yeah, yeah.
A, B, C. Thank you. Where it belongs. Thank you.
C, yeah. So just copy and paste. Copy and paste what she had. Yes, exactly. Control that. Yeah, into C. Cool. Should we go?
Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Johnson. Is there anyone against that? It's agreeable to the mover and the seconder. Thank you. It becomes part of the substantive notice of motion. Is there anyone against the notice of motion? Then I declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. Item C 1.2, Councillor Howlett, Jacobs Traffic Report.
Thank you, Ms. Yeah.
We are. Now, you can, it's your meeting, councillors. You can ask to adjourn the meeting, or we can deal with the last two items. Well, I can't guarantee that, Councillor Bowman. Thank you. Move Councillor Bowman to deal with the next two items and finish no later than 10:15. Seconded Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against?
Can I just ask, are these the last two items on the agenda for us to do for the complete agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And then can't we have over till next month? No.
Let's go.
Hopefully we don't take 11 minutes, councillors. Councillor Howlett.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My motion is that the council resolve to write to the state government to request a copy for distribution to all councillors of the Jacobs 2021 traffic report and all other updated reports about traffic and road plans in the Midland area. And 2, report back to council through the public agenda on the outcome. And the reason for the motion is that councillors require up-to-date and current information to inform their decision making.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bowman. Is there anyone against? You're not against Councillor Podovnik or Councillor Catalano? No. Then I declare that carried unanimously. Item C 1.3, Councillor Johnson, temporary underpass, Great Eastern Highway, South Guildford.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to write to the State Government requesting that consideration be given to creating a temporary underpass under the Great Eastern Highway, Johnson Street, on the south bank of the Helena River to allow South Guildford residents to safely cross from the eastern side of the Great Eastern Highway to the western side prior to construction of the replacement Helena River Bridge. 2, the temporary underpass to remain in use until works on the replacement bridge, which according to the City Advocacy Priority Programme will include a permanent underpass. 3, to add the temporary underpass on the south bank of the Helena River under the Great Eastern Highway to the City Advocacy Priority Programme. 4, to copy the letter to the Honourable Michelle Roberts MLA, Ms Cassie Rowe MLA and Honourable Ken Wyatt MP. 5, to report any responses in the public agenda. Reason for the motion: 1, recent maintenance by Main Roads WA through adding more rocks has made the unofficial underpass pathway even more unusable. 2, South Guildford residents wish to safely walk and cycle to Guildford. And 3, road safety for pedestrians is a priority.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Knight. Is there anyone against? You wish to debate it, Councillor Henderson? Councillor Podovnik or Councillor Catalano, are you against? You wish to debate it? Question, Councillor Bowman?
What's the cost to council for this, or is there a cost?
Unknown at this stage, Councillor Bowman, but that's why we're asking to write to the state government. Thank you. I'll ask if there's anyone against. Being no one against, I declare that... Oh, Councillor Henderson, sorry. You didn't wish to debate it. Councillor Henderson's against. The other 10 councillors are for. The motion is carried. Which takes us to notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting, if given during this meeting. On page 28 of the run sheet, there's 2 by Councillor Zanino. I think in the in mindfulness of time, you've got them in front of you. It's only a notice of motion for consideration. I don't require you to read them out, councillors, Councillor Zanino. If all councillors can take note of that, read them, and obviously contact Councillor Zanino or staff if you have any issues. It now being 8 minutes past 10 o'clock, I declare the meeting closed. I thank everyone for their attendance, and it hasn't been an easy night, and I wish all those councillors and staff who are feeling unwell, particularly due to COVID, to have a speedy recovery, and we look forward to seeing you at next week's briefing and future agenda and ordinary council meeting. Thank you, Councillor Podovnik and Catalano, for zooming in and staying the whole night. You can now go and get some sleep. Thank you.